I'm going to um, start recording. And I have a quick set of slides that we'll go through today just to kind of give an overview of what these forums are about. And we'll end up with some discussion about how everything should proceed. Let me share my screen. Everyone can see that? We good, Olivia? Okay, excellent. All right, so we've made it to the first of hopefully a year's long worth of Schoodic Regional Housing Forums. Um, I'll give an overview of how these forums are part of the larger context of all the housing work that HCPC and the rest of the county is doing. Um, what role these forums will take place. We'll do a quick introduction and icebreaker. Don't panic, it's only one question that is hopefully not too difficult to answer. So I think you'll be okay. And then we'll have hopefully at least 15, 20 minutes or so to kind of go over what we want these forums to be, what will help you get the most out of them, what will keep you returning, and what will ultimately make these a success. And at the end, maybe we can kind of come to an agreement of what next month's topic might be, or at least an area to focus on. And so a quick overview here. This project here is part of a municipal housing grant that was awarded to the town of Sullivan in February 2025. Originally applied for in February 2024, but um, lo and behold, it finally came about. Grant was awarded, and all the work within this housing grant, which is four separate projects, goes through December 2026. The forum is one of these projects, in addition to some funds for comprehensive plan technical assistance, promoting accessory dwelling units and nesterly as housing options and alternatives, and then facilitating two parcel study projects in Sullivan and Gouldsboro. At the same time, there is another municipal housing grant for a variety of projects on the Blue Hill Peninsula. And HCPC also received, I believe back in May or June, our second Housing Opportunity Program grant for a handful of additional projects that will really focus on housing in the county. So all of these grants and projects go through at least some portion of 2026. So for the next year or so, there will be a lot of other work ensuing. And all of these grants have been funded through Maine DECD's Housing Opportunity Program, which eventually is going to transition into the Maine Office of Community Affairs later this year, in case you're curious. So that will still be existing. These forums, congregating municipal officials, leaders, and other stakeholders in the housing space, folks that can come together, are knowledgeable, informed, and can provide some really meaningful input, ideas, and conversation. In addition to your town manager and select board members, regional organizations and nonprofits, and of course, any other employers, businesses, and other housing stakeholders that can really help provide some context and um, engage in these conversations. We're doing these to create a consistent space for talking about housing. I think we can all acknowledge that it has been um, a pretty hot topic and a necessary topic to talk about for the last several years here. And so, um, our idea when putting these grants together with these towns is that we should make something so we can talk about this consistently, um, and have the time and funding to do so. So we're trying to identify needs, discuss news, give updates on projects, share ideas, and really build connections. Maybe there'll be some folks in here that you haven't met yet, you'll have a chance to talk to and collaborate with moving down the road. How are we going to do that? Again, by facilitating and promoting conversation, first of all. That can be through education, sharing examples of past experiences, giving presentations, and listening to speakers, um, and hopefully establishing some more housing work and productivity moving down the road. So real quick, um, I'm going to, I guess, call on each of you as you appear on my screen. Um, if you can, your name, who you're affiliated with, and then what do you consider your best housing experience? And best can be left open to interpretation. So I will start. Again, my name is Greg Paduke. I'm a regional planner here at the Hancock County Planning Commission. And I feel like my best housing experience was the last place that I lived in Columbus, Ohio. It was more of a neighborhood community experience, I guess. I was living in an area that was a historic village and it had great access to restaurants, a really nice park that everyone would go to. Um, and it's a real feeling of community and that you could go anywhere and just be comfortable and be yourself. And I think that's an important aspect of housing um, outside of the roof over your head. Let's go to Olivia next.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I work with Hancock County Planning Commission, specifically more in the broadband digital opportunity realm, but supporting this project. And my best housing experience is going to College of the Atlantic and living on MDI during the off season, and then moving to Mount Desert Rock to do marine biology research in the summer. So that's 26 miles off the coast, 3 acres of granite, no running water. It's like a historic lighthouse keeper building in from the 1890s that was likely haunted. Um, and I just loved being out there and at the mercy of the ocean.
Megan. Megan, can you hear me?
Yes, hi. I'm sorry. Did you say me twice?
No worries.
I'm
Take it.
Megan Mosier. I'm the Director of Sales and Operations at Schoodic Institute in Winter Harbor. Um, my best housing experience, uh, I have a pretty great housing experience right now. I live a mile from the downtown in Winter Harbor. But I guess maybe I would say when I lived in the Fenway in Boston, I was really near the bus. I could walk to everywhere in Boston, and yeah, lots of shops and restaurants and great accessibility.
Sounds great. Gerald, thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Name is Jerry Gerald, but I work with I'm emergency shelter housing administrator here at Home Emmaus. So we have the homeless shelters in throughout Hancock County. Um, and also run a couple of nonprofits, St. Francis Community Covenant Community Land Trust on their board. They all provide work with housing in throughout Hancock County as well. So my best housing experience, I would say probably when I was a really young kid, moved up to northern Washington County with my grandmother. My grandmother lived, and didn't matter how poor we were. It just seemed like it was much more just I was pretty stable housing and community in northern Washington County. Even it didn't matter who you were. It just seemed to be pretty stable and pretty good little small community in a small town.
Thank you. Next to Bob.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bob DeForest, and I work for Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and I'm a land protection project manager for Eastern Hancock and the Schoodic Peninsula. And I will say that I actually did live on the Rock for 10 days, Mount Desert Rock for 10 days, which was um, a great experience. But I was what immediately came to mind is I worked for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or with Fish and Wildlife out on Petite Manhattan Island and lived in the Lightkeepers Station for 3 summers. And despite having the foghorn blow at my bed every 30 seconds through the night, it was still an amazing experience to be out on the island and around the birds.
Yeah, this sounds amazing. All right, thanks. Ray, Town of Sullivan.
Ray Weintraub, town manager, Town of Sullivan. I think best housing experience is when I lived in Brooklyn and in New York City, and just being able to, like some of you have said, proximity to stores in different areas. And when I was bored, I'd just jump the subway and go into Central Park and do the crossword and, go down to the beach and do whatever. But the accessibility was probably the anchor to that housing experience being that good.
Yeah, it does get more accessible than the Bronx. Alice.
I'm Alice. I am a planner, I guess, at Hancock County Planning Commission, but also an Island Institute fellow. And my best housing experience is it's probably been living in the apartment that I live in now in Blue Hill. It's an old house. I think it was built in like the 1820s. But it has really cool floors and built-in like cabinets and a cool fireplace. So I've loved living in that apartment.
Great. Josh, Town of Gouldsboro.
Yeah, I'm Josh McIntyre, town manager for Gouldsboro. I think maybe the best housing experience I had was the place I lived before I moved back to Maine. About 10 years ago, I lived in Cranford, New Jersey. It was a relatively new mixed-use development down in the street level. There was a couple of restaurants, liquor store, an Italian deli, so you could get stuff there easily. You go across the street, you could jump on the train and get into New York City easily. I walked 150 feet across the street the other way to my office, and it was pretty quick to get to a quick park system where you could be off the street and have a good walk for a few miles. So it had everything within really easy distance.
All right, sounds like you had it all. Krista, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me. I live in Bremen. I work for the Island Institute, so I'm not from the Schoodic Peninsula, but I work in for those who don't know me, Krista Thorpe, I work in our Center for Marine Economy on our Future of Fishing initiative, and I'm here because I'm hearing a lot about sternmen not able to live in the working waterfront communities where they're working, as well as their families. So my best housing experience is where I live in Bremen, the acre that my husband and I are so lucky to be able to homestead in the woods, not far from water. But when you first asked the question, my mind actually jumped to after grad school, during the time of paying off college debt. I had free housing because I got a job as a dorm parent in a boys' dorm. I had 24 high school boys I had to manage. And that was just key to me paying off my student loans because I didn't have to pay for that housing. So it's something I think a lot about, in workforce work.
Yeah, that's a great example. All right, thank you. Misty, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Morning. I live in Sullivan and I am the community connector here, a pilot program offered by Age Friendly. And I assist people with housing and all kinds of issues with their relationship with aging at home. My favorite, my favorite place is here. I love how I've been able to jump into the community and help and be welcomed. But I would say that my favorite community, we moved an awful lot before I got here. And Brandon Wild, a planned community in Midlothian, Virginia, was a very easy place to adapt to. It was a planned community with trails, with enough pools, with everything that gave recreation and grocery stores and everything at easy access. And it was very easy to meet people there and acclimate. And I think that's really important to newcomers in a community. So also, it was a varied real estate community. So you could practically afford any lifestyle there, from apartment to condo to $1 million home. So thank you.
Mixed use and planned community. Mm-hmm. Pearl, good morning. Thanks for joining.
Good morning. My name is Pearl Bartow, and I'm a long-term board of directors member of the Winter Harbor Housing Corporation. We own 18 subsidized units in Winter Harbor, and we have 17 undeveloped acres. So we're always interested in what the needs are for housing.
Excellent. Thank you. And looks like last but not least, Addison.
Hey, I'm Addison Gruber. I'm a planner at the Hancock County Planning Commission, and I think my best housing experience was probably a few years ago. It was more about the people I was living with. I had really great roommates at the time, which made it a good experience.
All right. So looks like a few themes came out of there. Sense of community, shared experiences, access and walkability. Um, Not surprising, all those things certainly help. And Olivia again is doing a great job of noting everything we talk about and will help form future conversations and topics. Okay, so getting more into the nitty-gritty here, and part of why I want to do this in the first meeting is because you're all here, you're all interested, and I'm very interested in getting your feedback on the best way to do these and to keep you coming back and keep you telling others to attend. And so first off is I guess how we would like these meetings to run. I guess the best format to get out of what we hope to, education, information, sharing stories and experiences. And I threw a few options, pretty traditional options on the screen here. There are other meeting forums out there and groups that have, a speaker or presenter or two in the beginning. And afterwards, we follow that maybe with a quick discussion and a Q&A. Another option is to have maybe an assigned topic or two that everyone knows beforehand, and we can come in and have a more general, broader discussion on that each month, with maybe some prepared questions and any other thoughts shared. Or maybe it's more open, and we kind of go around and share updates on what each of us are doing in our towns and our organizations, and it's a way to um, help each other with what we're going through, or maybe spark some ideas or start collaborating on other ideas and projects. And we don't necessarily need to stick to one format each month. We can rotate these depending on the topic or the interest or the speaker. Um, and something else to think about is whether you want a more information focused forum or something that's more conversational, where we can really talk to each other. And so, open to any feedback about any of this. What would make the best meeting and forum experience for all of you? And you can raise your hand or just unmute yourself and start speaking.
I think being able to address any kind of um, obstacles that we're having, whether it's people not really understanding what the whole concept is. Maybe about a year and a half ago, we had at a select board meeting, we talked about housing, and it was interesting. So looking at housing opportunities, housing, and someone in the back of the room stood up and said, "Why are we giving away houses?" And so it was like the first comment we got, why are you giving away stuff? It's like no one said we're giving away stuff. We're talking about something that legislation is addressing, and how is it going to affect us long term? So I think maybe talking about that stuff would be a good idea.
I think identifying what the deficiencies are, which in my opinion and my experience is not just lack of housing, but also lack of affordable housing. We have some lodging out here, and we have early career folks who stay in some of that housing. Schoodic Institute also owns a house in Winter Harbor that we have a staff member living in. My husband and I also own a business in Winter Harbor that requires additional staff during the summertime. And we have found housing for them, but we've had to be super creative and it's expensive. So that means that we need to pay people maybe more than the going rate and maybe more than other businesses are paying in order to get them to come here and work. And I think also keeping our youth here. So it's not just about, summer staffing, but affordable housing that allows people who grew up here to be able to stay in the area. We're outpricing that also. It's getting to be so expensive that they're people who are, like somebody mentioned, stern men, that includes, bank tellers and insurance agents and school teachers. I know the Peninsula School in Prospect Harbor has struggled many times with being able to hire teachers because there's no availability of lodging and not affordable lodging.
Right, certainly. Do you think, I guess, to have those conversations, are people more interested in hearing about real world examples that may have been successful in the past, or others that are maybe going through the same thing and how they're dealing with it? Um, or
I
to
think
just
from my perspective, I'd love to know what the county, what the state is doing to, are there any plans underway? Are there any strategies or thoughts, ideas, funding to help provide more housing? Or, yeah, I don't know. I know it's an issue, but I don't know what's being done to resolve it.
Gotcha. Okay. So some maybe starting off, a larger picture about all the work that's being done. Um,
And I think
yeah,
I think open communication is the way, ideas and thoughts and other people's experiences, what other people are doing is super helpful.
okay, excellent. Thank you. Anyone else, and whether you'd like to, listen to or watch a presentation and talk about it afterwards, or maybe, bring someone in to facilitate a conversation on a certain topic, um, or kind of just more or less, have opportunity to talk with each other. Wow, go ahead.
I think an opportunity to share some of the existing studies and resources are out there. So whether that's separate from during the meeting, but access to some of the past studies that have been done for Hancock County, Hancock County, and on the peninsula for needs, and then perhaps an opportunity for an overview on those. And then the other topic that keeps coming up has been this question of if going the route of workforce housing properties, the question of who will own and manage if there are covenants that come with them. And I think that
Mhm.
that's a big question that's been happening in a number of our discussions. So having some outside speaker to provide some examples and some advice on that.
Okay. And I don't know if I mentioned this off the top, but Olivia's done a great job of creating some space on HCPC's website where everything we do talk about and links and resources and other outside sources can be shared at that location. And Olivia, maybe you can drop a link in here at some point. It'll also be shared in the follow-up email to everybody. But yes, to your point, Bob, that's where things will be shared, and we can do some research, off meeting and add some additional resources to those pages, and they'll always be available for people to go to and review. So I guess since we sort of started getting into it, topics of discussion. So the format, which maybe will end up being, a mix of some sort depending on the topic. These are ideas that have already been suggested from folks when I initially reached out um, for thoughts and ideas about these meetings. We have aging in place, considering a sense of community and connection. Of course, what existing opportunities are there to support affordable and workforce housing, preferred density of units, examples of successful projects, case studies. Another topic that has been talked about in the Schoodic region is, looking into how a housing trust or regional housing authority might be established down the road. I know homelessness is another topic that's been brought up. So in addition to these, or you can comment on whether these are relevant to the region or not, other topics or areas that should be added to this list or maybe focused on initially.
I would really urge us to be aware of any resources that Winter Harbor certainly has a lot of experience in housing and repurposing housing from the 82 units that were left from the Navy. And our housing development board is very leery of providing additional housing unless we have some firm financial backing that can continue to make that housing affordable. The investment that has come into the housing market in our area has not allowed it to continue to be affordable or available to people who want to live and work here. So we happen to be the Winter Harbor Housing Development Board happens to be in a unique position of having management and land available. But we don't have the money or the economy to figure out how to provide those houses to be available and affordable.
Okay, so some financial options and resources there. Okay, great. And maybe down the road it could be helpful to get someone I guess also involved in that space to come to a meeting and maybe talk specifically about the struggles and maybe how we can best approach making everyone feel comfortable moving forward with looking into housing there because having the land is one of the main obstacles, and it seems like that's available. Jerry, go ahead.
I think a good discussion and maybe would be the zoning and regulatory issues that are going on. So many barriers for development, but as well as just building, among other things. And, whether, I know it's creeping throughout the county in the area. So maybe nice to have, maybe you could have like some town leaders from a couple different towns or people involved with it could discuss, how easy is it really to build something, even if you have the land or if you have the money, what the zoning, what the regulatory, is there a NIMBY issue in the area? It's kind of a general layer along. I mean, you can have zoning, you can't do things, or regulatory, make it so difficult to do things. Prices at the very least go up and up and up, if not not possible at all.
Okay, so maybe examining zoning or what other towns have done to encourage development. And certainly, NIMBYism is a conversation and a reality. So that can be addressed. Megan, I did see your comment about homes being purchased and turned into seasonal Airbnbs. It's certainly, yes, a concern, notably in the coastal part of our world. And so that could be interesting to hear from towns that are currently addressing this issue, or maybe some examples of how affordable homes have been preserved, or how there's been a balance of all in a community. So I think that would be a topic worth diving into at some point.
Well, and what are conveying the concept of housing for people instead of housing for profit. And I know profit's always nice, but we actually I got a call from the code enforcement officer a little bit ago. The guy misinformed came up with this concern. Oh, I hear you're getting rid of short-term housing. What am I going to do? I'm building my house and I'm betting on using the first 5 years of its occupancy as short-term rental to pay things down. So it's incentive, over pocket, So I think, and that's what, that's what we come up against also. I mean, we're a small town, but people are so connected to the fact that I can turn a dollar. They're not concerned about, you know, folks in industry at all needing a place to live. Let's forget about the fact that, where do the kids go? Because at least with the whole concept of ADUs, the kids could always have a spot at grandma and grandpa's house to go, they can build an extra building on there. So that's always the potential. But people looking to do that are looking to put someone in there for 12 weeks a year, maximize their dollar. And that's where they're focusing themselves. And there's nothing wrong with turning a profit, but then you don't have anything for the year-rounders. So maybe bringing that to light is a topic that can be held.
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess there needs to be some sort of mindset shift where profit is not the priority, which is hard to tell some people. But thinking in the long term and those long-term residents, yeah, I agree. And Krista shared in the chat an FAQ about Stonington, and they have a short-term rental registration ordinance. They've Kathleen and Linda down there have been pretty, I guess, progressive in that space and establishing that, and maybe having them talk about how it's impacted and how they've seen things change could be useful.
It might be interesting to get a panel of towns together that have passed short-term rental ordinances. I know on Swans Island, they started a registry and a registration fee, but there's no kind of regulatory teeth in it. So seeing what different strategies work for different towns.
Okay, add that to the list.
We had discussion at a planning board meeting about the possibility of doing inspections on short-term, long-term rentals, and that hit the floor really hard. Why are we going to do that? I don't understand. Right? But yeah, I think people's concepts of how these things impact them, they don't get, and this is at a planning board level. So I don't know. I don't know how we get the message across that not only does this affect housing, but no lack of oversight over these things also affects property value, property taxes, and all other things. But getting the message across is hard.
And also, I think reminding people of the year-round benefits. So if you have a grocery store or a restaurant or, another business where if you have year-round residents, you're going to be busy all year. At the end of the day, if you're a builder or if you're a car salesman, like if the more people, and I'm not suggesting that we increase the year-round residents by, leaps and bounds, but it is sad to see our youth needing to leave the area. And we're just in it, and they're being replaced by people who've moved here from out of state who make more money, who don't have those deep roots. And that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that sounds like a good topic down the road. All right, I guess in the meantime, obviously any other ideas, you're welcome to reach out to me, reach out to Olivia, and we'll make sure these are noted. All right. Also, in some of my initial emails, I asked for some suggestions on potential speakers or presenters on certain topics. Got a few responses, sharing some past experience of how other regional housing initiatives have been facilitated and maybe acted upon. Um, Island Housing Trust on MDI has been doing a lot of great stuff down there for a little while now. I know Marla is retiring or has already retired, but she and the whole organization has really established some great programs. So it could be great to learn from someone and talk to someone from there to see how they're continuing their work. And then a suggestion, someone from Maine Board of Maine Continuum of Care or the statewide homeless council. Any other individuals, organizations that you think might help facilitate our conversations and spark some ideas.
I'm interested in any statewide bond issues that we might be able to access. So I'm kind of hoping that we can somehow involve our congressional delegation, our state representatives and senators, so that maybe if they're in the right place at the right time, that we can get some advocacy, because I don't see how we can be competitive against out-of-state investors buying up our housing unless we have those economic resources available to us.
That's a great suggestion. And I think those conversations, I guess, start with groups and people like this. So, I like that a lot.
Earlier you mentioned this possible topic of like creating local housing authorities, that kind of stuff. Well, why have someone come speak from like MDI, Ellsworth Housing Authority, to talk about what they do, as well as, I know they're coming out and may have smaller little housing agencies as well. So maybe talk about that, or, I'm not sure who runs it right now, but
Yeah, Weston Bren is the director over there right now. And he's been very helpful in providing me information or other things when I've asked. So it sounds like maybe he could be a potential guest down the road or part of a larger discussion on
part of the group.
or part of the group too. Yeah. Anyone else come to mind immediately, or organizations that you might want to hear from or are curious to learn more about? And this doesn't have to be limited, I guess, to Hancock County. It can be Maine-wide. Potentially, outside of that as well, if there's a organization in another, part of the country that's really doing some meaningful work that we can listen from. And part of that can come from research on our end as well.
That's what
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
thinking when
Oh,
someone suggested MDI and Ellsworth. I mean, that's assuming they're doing great and they have adequate affordable housing, which I don't think is the case. So perhaps we need to dig a little deeper and, find communities that are like ours in, tourist areas, with the same demand for seasonal lodging and see what they're doing. See, I don't know where those places would be. I know that's kind of vague, but um, from what I read, it doesn't sound like Ellsworth and Bar Harbor have figured it out either yet.
right. Wouldn't say figured it out. Just progress is being made, and they're trying at least. But I think, yeah, to your point, seeing what other coastal communities and regions are doing, I think that could be a great benefit.
a person who would probably be great to add to this group is Eric Stiles with Friends of Acadia. He's spearheading a successful effort to increase housing for park personnel. And yeah, they've had a couple of great success stories, and he brings a lot of knowledge from other parts of the country as well, and may be able to even just speak to us on, at one meeting about some ideas.
That would be great. I think I attempted to contact him and Friends of Acadia when we did this, but no response. And if anyone else has a closer relationship with him and wants to mention this, or you know, put me and him. We've met him once or twice, but I think he'd be a great addition.
I am happy to introduce you to him via email, and perhaps you can take it from there. Very nice guy.
Sure. Yeah, he was. Thank you. Bob, go right ahead.
I think one of the benefits of these meetings is to hear what other people are doing. And so in addition to perhaps some key speakers talking about their work, is just even in this introductions, hearing some of the work like Pearl mentioned with what they're doing in Winter Harbor, opportunities for people to hear what other partners are and perhaps make those connections and have conversations either at these forums or make connections outside. So just an opportunity to hear what all sort of traditional and non-traditional partners are doing to address housing needs.
Okay, great.
And as an example, I'll just say that there's a number of, at the Maine Land Trust Network meeting, we've had a forum talking about land trusts partnering on housing needs, in particular with housing trusts. And so I think there's a lot of great examples out there. We've done some work with Island Housing Trust, but I think that there's some really good examples of ways that non-traditional partners have worked together to address housing.
Non-traditional partners. Okay, great. Josh.
Yeah, I think that it might be beneficial also to have at least one session kind of dedicated more to just a purely private sector approach. Last fall, I think it was, I sat in on a webinar by a company called, I think it was Backyard ADUs. They're out of Southern Maine, but they had a forum where they had at least two that I remember, representatives from private banks who talked about how they had learned how to start lending towards ADU construction because it was kind of outside of the normal scope of mortgages that banks were familiar with. Given the laws that have been passed, particularly LD 2003, which allows by right anybody to add an ADU to their thing, I really think that it could be a low barrier way to add housing quickly if people were aware of the opportunity, how it can enhance value to their own properties, if they knew what the private opportunities were out there if they knew that the lending was available for them. And for that matter, if there are any enhancements out there, I've thought about this for a long time, about how some kind of entity, whether it's governments or otherwise, could help guarantee some of these loans from banks to help get construction going. I think it can make in some cases, you bypass the bigger problem of multi-unit growth all in one spot that people seem to have a problem with by dispersing it out in a bunch of homeowners. A dozen homeowners, each adding an ADU, could be done quicker and with fewer problems. So
yeah, I think that's great. How do those actually happen? What lending resources are available? Great.
I'd like to advocate for some support, maybe from Maine Municipal Association or the Planning Commission, for developing covenants or ordinances that somehow protect housing to remain affordable. And just having that wordage and those resources available there was any opportunity to develop anything would be helpful.
Okay. So yeah, maybe looking into what sort of model ordinances there are available, or the best way to make an ordinance that helps preserve and protect affordable housing. Okay. All right. Excellent. Once again, any other ideas, you're willing to share them at any time. So in addition to the, municipal leaders and partner organizations, from folks that are here today, any other, I guess, region specific, we can start with, groups, organizations, individuals that you think, um, would really be, worthwhile in attending and being part of these conversations. And some additional responses I got was, again, regional business owners, which we have Megan here, who's also associated with the Schoodic Institute. Um, and then, I guess like-minded, the Chamber of Commerce, and just ensuring that they're involved as well. So any other specific groups, organizations, individuals that you think should be targeted? And maybe I have already, but they just haven't responded.
Maybe someone from RSU 24.
Yes, okay, yeah, I totally agree, and I think I attempted to contact them, but if you have a specific person or a best way to reach out to them, and that goes for anyone, let me know, and I would be, I'll make it a point to try and get in touch.
I agree with Megan. Any potential large employer, I understand Wyman's may be moving into Prospect Harbor, so possibly the blueberry factory.
Yeah. Okay, great. Employers, Bob suggested Jackson Laboratory.
What about any like either representative or state house senator that represents the area, and someone from, would be them to hear what our voices are, and also to have what they hear as well.
I like that idea a lot. In Blue Hill Peninsula, they have a group, that focuses more on, I guess, climate change on the peninsula, and they've done a good job of having some representatives attend those meetings, and so I think, doing some outreach there on our part is necessary. Yeah. All right. I guess that leaves, kind of leaning into what next month topic will be, and maybe before we get into that, any final thoughts on, I guess, the best way for this forum to proceed, or what will keep you coming back and attending and encouraging others to attend that we haven't touched on already? It seems like we, shared a lot, and, we have a lot to work with moving forward. For next month, I guess I'm kind of Bob suggested the idea of maybe sharing some existing resources of what's out there, and acknowledging what kind of, again, informational, financial, programs that are out there. Maybe that's something that we can start with, is just an overview of what currently exists as far as housing resources that we can use for reference, or programs that are available that maybe we want to learn more about. Krista, you have your hand up. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, has this group already seen a presentation, or has HCPC already done a presentation on your countywide housing study?
No. That is something that I did have in mind of doing at some point. Um,
I wonder if even as a I know I'm interested in that, and that was brought up, but kind of feels like that yeah, that was questions around state policy, regional kind of that context setting. as well.
I think that's great. And I'd be more than happy to do that. I actually have a presentation that I put together. There's a Down East Housing Collaborative. I'm not sure if any of you are aware. And that's the link that I can also share post meeting. But they had asked me to do a presentation for them about the assessment we did and the household survey that we did. And so I can do that here as well. I'd be more than happy to if it would be helpful.
And Greg, do you want to
Yes, maybe
circulate
that's
the study that we'd had done last year for Gouldsboro and Winter Harbor?
excellent. Yep, we can do that too. And maybe I can incorporate some of that into the presentation as well as an overview of what came out of the Gouldsboro and Winter Harbor study. We'll
If
share
you
that
have it,
link.
you need me to send it to you. You have it, don't you?
We have it. It's linked to our website, so I should be able to access it.
Okay.
Okay, I think that would be a good place to start, and maybe I can add on some other things as far as additional resources, programs, places to start looking into if people are curious. So that's a good suggestion. Thanks, Krista.
Greg,
Okay. Yep.
I know you're doing a forum for Blue Hill as well, and I'm just wondering if thinking of some of the speakers that might not want to, you might only be able to get available to speak once, and just thinking about if there's sort of joint attended meetings too, so that those people can speak to a broader group and not have to try to nail down 2 dates for them to attend either or both meetings.
That's a great point. Yes, to that point, I think that would be very wise if we could kind of join those efforts down the road. So thank you for suggesting that. That was good. Okay. A few more minutes if anyone else has any other thoughts or comments. Otherwise, appreciate you all being here for the first one. It's been in the works for a little while, but HCPC, we finally got ourselves together, and all of you have helped tremendously in all of your suggestions. And we now have a place to talk about housing. I know there's a lot of negative to it, which is kind of why we wanted to ask that question about your best housing experience, to kind of give you that initial thought of, hey, housing can be like this here if we continue working on it. And we've got the right people in the room to have those conversations. So I'm excited to have you all here. And I think you all have my email and Olivia's email. Olivia, maybe I'll drop mine in the chat real quick just in case you don't. Olivia, if you can drop yours. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, feel free to reach out, and we will be in touch. Again, the link to the space on our website is also in the chat. Should be under planning, housing. Go to the housing page, scroll down a little bit, and there's a button for the Schoodic Housing Forum, and that's where everything will live moving forward. It's all right. And a reminder, next month, see if I can find a calendar real quick. Fourth Wednesday of the month. If anyone can beat me to it, that's fine. August 27th. It looks like it's the fourth Wednesday month at 10 a.m. And updates will be sent out before then. All right. So until then, thank you all very much, and I appreciate you being here. Have a great rest of your week.